Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in to the Status Network, the live TV channel, and this is the Conversation Corner with your host, the author, Andrew Snorton. And as we do every second and fourth Wednesday about this time, we have a great conversation with some great guests across the board in entertainment, business, community, and more. And you know, we're going to get off to a fast start. But before we get started with our first guest, who's already ready to go, we're going to take care of our quick station announcements, as well as announcements of how you can stay connected with me. So first, we appreciate you tuning into the network. To enjoy tonight's show, visit our website of statusnetwork.net. Click on the big old pop-up box that says Conversation Corner, fill in the info, check that out, and you'll have all the info you need for this as well as any other archival shows. If you have room on your smart devices, make sure to download the Status Network app, click on channels, click on live TV, and you're good to go. For those of you on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, make sure to add both Status Network and live TV, that's LYVE live TV. For those of you with Roku and Amazon Fire Stick, make sure to go ahead and tune in to Status Network, and make sure to add me on Facebook at author Andrew Snorton so you can catch the show. And now let's take care of our quick station as well as announcements on how we can stay connected. And for those of you out there involved in film, whether documentary, short film, or extended film, make sure to connect with us here at Status Networks and take advantage of the opportunity with Status Films that was launched earlier this year. Your films will get exposure on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and other platforms that the network has access to. So if you go to the bottom of the flyer or the image that you see there, make sure to give us a call and or email us, and let's get you and your films the exposure that they so rightly deserve. And regarding yours truly, I have to give shouts to the entities that have reached out to me and interviewed me. So shouts to WSNC 90.5 FM up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina for Triad and Focus, Southwest DeKalb High School Author Spotlight, The Live Exchange, Good News with Tawanda Black, Chicks into Sports, who was a guest on our show, Tell Me Mo podcast based out of Houston, Texas, and wait, there's a few more. And most recently, Detroit Book City, thank you for having me as one of your speakers for your festival. Shouts to Sam Crenshaw, who was a guest on our show a couple months ago. I was able to be on his sports broadcast. Hard in the Paint Sports with David Grubb, based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So shouts to my boy and fellow Wake Forest alum. DNA Sports, who just had me on this Monday, and Time with JC Moore. That interview will be coming out later this week. And make sure to stay connected with me at the following platforms. So enough about the station and enough about yours truly. And now we are ready for our first guest. She is no stranger to the show. I tell you what, how you do all 5,100 things is beyond me. So we're glad to have Tyressa joining us. Ty, how are you doing this holiday season?
I am extremely blessed. I feel great being able to be
socially distant.
6 feet away. Okay, I feel excited that I am able to breathe, and I have on lipstick because I haven't worn lipstick in a few months. So I'm just excited to be alive. Truly, many have not had the same privilege. Mm-hmm. As my grandfather used to say all the time, just to be above ground is definitely a blessing in this day and age. So I am super excited to be here.
Well, we are excited to have you back. And for our viewers who this might be the first time connecting with you, could you let our viewers know where you are based out of and just a few of the moving parts that you have, especially starting off with arts and entertainment?
Well, I am based, I'm virtual. I've been virtual before, prior to the pandemic. Typically spend my time in between Louisiana, Atlanta, and New York. And I'm just extremely blessed to have had the opportunity to work with some of the greatest legends in the world as it relates to my entertainment, the entity of entertainment. Of course, I am an author. I have, I think, about 14 pieces on Amazon and on my website, where you can find me at Fire, FIYAHTYRESSA. Fire Tyressa. And I just would definitely love your support. I do have a lot of irons in the fire. I will say that I feel like, during this pandemic that I'm not doing enough, but because I guess I'm not on a plane, because typically I'm used to flying 2 or 3 times a week. So it's been very challenging being at home alone, but I'm tapped in to many things, and definitely looking for many more partnerships and collaborations with all you amazing people out there that's in arts and entertainment as well.
And I'm glad you said that, because previous guests, as we know, this now normal has been a little bit different, to varying degrees, a little bit chaotic. But one of the positives from this time is that it's forced people, to borrow from one of my previous guests, it's forced people to be creative. So in lieu of, the usual, you're traveling, it's a concert here, it's this type of event, what would you say are some of the adjustments that you've made in order to stay engaged? And I think one of them was the summer concert series that you were involved in. So
Yes.
could you walk through some of that with us?
Yes, absolutely. So being creative is, thankfully, being creative is something, a God-given gift that I've always had. But I really had to tap into that skill set during this pandemic, especially being a person that, of course, like I say, traditionally being on a stage, live is what we, live and people are what we live for in entertainment. So as I was transitioning and trying to find ways to stay connected, not just to my audience in entertainment, but my audience as an author as well. Some of the things that I was just trying to play around with to see if it would work was the virtual concerts. So we did a series of virtual concerts with Mystical, with some blues artists, Pokey. Also worked with a partnership with for the concert with Lloyd live virtually, and with the Mike Epps project. It had Dougie Fresh, Big Daddy Kane. Oh my God! It was a host of old school rappers that flew in, and just entertained. And it was like a family reunion, because that was our first time seeing everybody, probably since January, February of the last of last year. So those are some of the initiatives that I've worked with as it relates to entertainment and providing concerts, if you will, during the period of the pandemic. Of course, I had the music month. I focused on and concentrated on matters. I have my journal, Matters of the Mind, and so the mind behind the music. And it was I was able to interview several cold-blooded artists each week, and I was super excited about that. And the intent was not to carry it on more than that period. It was I had Trina, Cupid Shuffle, my homeboy from Louisiana, Teddy Riley, of course, Dougie Fresh, and Tamika Scott here, locally here from Atlanta. And when I tell you, it was just an amazing time. Oh, and my homeboy, David Banner. I was like, okay, I got to remember all these names. David Banner, of course, he went to Southern University grad as well as I am. And it was just an amazing opportunity to have those legends. These are not, just no ordinary people, to take time out. And of course, a lot of times they charge, and because, I am Tyressa Ty and I have that Southern charm.
Well, look at here. I was
able to get those done from, just a favor of, just a little favor. So I was excited about spending that time, them taking the time out, 45 minutes to an hour, and sharing with my audience.
Let me ask you this, because, you got to make sure you're playing it like spades. You can't reveal your hand until it's time to cut. But having said all that, during this time and being connected and having worked with different artists, what would you say, is there a common takeaway from artists saying, hey, look, during this time, this is what I'm focusing on, or this is how I'm adjusting, or like we said earlier, and like I said from one of my previous guests, Dr. Tanya Fenor, out of chaos, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, it does force creativity. So
right.
I'll say this, what creativity from the artists that you work with have you been able to kind of modify or incorporate in regards to your work?
Well, that's a great question. And I say this all the time, and I think we all feel this way when when we're accustomed to having so many irons in the fire, spinning so many plates, wearing so many hats, if you will, and mentally you feel stagnant and you feel like you're being sheltered, locked down, feel like you're in prison, if you will, and being able to provide the service and support to many people, it's been very challenging. But I will say that when you're dealing with artists, then they're creative as well. So we all partnered, collaborated, many meetings. So when you saw, and I don't know if I want to say this out loud on on television, but when you because I don't want any, look, I don't want to be harassed. But I played a major part in Versus. And when you saw Teddy Rock in the beginning of Versus, it's taken a totally different flight at this point, and I'm super excited about the guys and Swiss and them being able to take it to the next level. But when it first started off, I played a role in it, and it was definitely a learning process for me. It was very, very, very exciting. And I remember when Ted wanted me to come to Vegas, and that was in the beginning state when Versus first started, because it was just a play around thing. Let's do something for the fans initially. Now it's become something else, but still the same, foundation and concept. And I was like, I don't want to fly to Vegas, and I'm always, I can jump on a plane and it's like it's getting in a car, I'm definitely not new to flying, but I was so afraid to fly. And it was so funny when everybody saw everything that happened when we were having some technical challenges. My phone was blowing up. I was sitting there, of course, in my PJs. And of course, I had to get a shot of something because the wine wasn't even working at that point. But it was so crazy because I was like, I should have just got on the plane. I should have just went. And I'm calling, and I got 3 phones, and I'm up here calling everybody like, what's going on? Whatever. And so it was it was definitely a learning experience for me. I can say, let me tell you, God has been so great to me to work with Teddy. And to be a part of that project, and for him to lean on me for important things, for me is just an honor and a blessing indeed. But after that project, I'll just say I've been to Vegas 3 times since then. I was like,
so you've gotten, after that little putting your toe in the pool, now
right.
you're not waist deep, but you knee deep, like some old Parliament. You knee deep.
Yeah.
But still, and it comes back to during our now normal, it's gonna be some things that go smooth as silk and things go as smooth as sandpaper, but you still have the experience and you're able to apply that. And like we said before on the show, all these different things that you've had to do, it's expanding your toolkit.
Absolutely.
And technically is preparing you to expand your reach. I'd like to pivot on the author end because in regards to that spirit of collaboration, I think, this is before we get to what we're going to get to.
But let me say this too before you say that, because I do want to say this.
Go ahead.
This is important for me to say in regards to the artists that I've worked with, and when I talk about Dougie Fresh, who is like, these people are like family to me. Like I go and just break bread and go in their house and go in the refrigerator and just make myself at home. But this is what I want people to know and to remember, that these artists started from the ground, for real, from the pavement. They are old school rappers, and although they look great and they look very good for their age, what people have to understand is, like with the situation with Teddy is a producer. He is a showstopper, okay? When we initially started with the Verses, he was putting on a show because that's what he's accustomed to doing. He's not to take away from the new rappers and them having auto tunes and them standing there and just kind of going from side to side. Teddy still dance. He can go round for round. He has dancers, he has the background. He still has that old school experience that you look for, as well as Doug. When you go to his show, you know it. You've been there, you've been backstage. You're gonna leave there sweating. So you're trying to get an old school rapper who who is not really, they are familiar with social media, but that's not their preferred method, right?
Yeah.
To transition 100% to social media as a form of entertainment, you're going to see a little something different than you're going to see with the baby who grew up with the phone in his hand, okay? So that's the main thing I try to tell people when they ask me initially, with Doug, when we were doing social media, and I was kind of like, kind of babysitting the social, I'd be like, do this, do that. And now he's become an expert, shout out to Doug and Fresh, Fresh Talk.
Fresh Talk, yeah.
Some of these things were just things I was saying, hey, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, let's do it. But I just want to do it this way. And now they're trying to get acclimated. And they've been doing a very, very good job of jumping on there and making it happen. But I had to say that because being, deeply involved with a lot of things that's going on with a lot of different artists and primarily old school. I'm open for all people, but old school, I have to just, in their defense, say, hey, when you see them doing different things, know that they're not going to be doing things the way a 20-year-old would be doing it, or a 30-year-old, a 19 or 20, 25-year-old, because again, this is not their preferred method, and they are more hands-on, okay? They're fan-friendly. These are the people who are in the dirt, in the clinches with you. So you're going to definitely get a different vibe, but you respect that vibe because, baby, they've earned it. They're legends. They didn't do anything outside the norm to earn the right to where they are today. They hit it hard and they made it happen without doing anything viral, so we definitely want to I just wanted to have to just give them that respect and shout out to them and all the other amazing artists that I've worked with over the years.
Hey, no doubt. And I think, there's a learning curve and you're asking, like you said, other people are familiar because they've grown up with it. It kind of reminds me like we're in the educator hat, and there's a young man who actually I prepped for one of the exams, and I'm like, well, look, based on when we started, you were asked to do this amount of work where you usually have this amount of time in like that amount of time.
Absolutely.
And it's the same principle. So when you were walking through that, that's, you were throwing people into the fire, and it does take time. Everything doesn't happen overnight. No. And like I said before, some things, even when you have time, some things do go smooth as sandpaper. So that's, I mean,
we're dealing with technology.
Yeah.
And even we were talking about some things. You were showing me some things before the show started that even, we are challenged, even though we're not at the age I don't know your age, but hey, we're not in the 50s and plus, you know what I'm saying? There's still things that constantly come out that I have to research and I have to study and just, try to stay abreast of everything that's new that's coming out as it relates to technology. Because right now we're relying on it 100% to make our living and to impact the masses. This is what we have right now.
Right, exactly. Pivoting slightly, I know there's two key things that I know we definitely want to talk about in regards to, I don't know, I think it's good right now with the holidays. With the holidays coming up, this is a project that has been near and dear, and I've been able to see it evolve even over the last 2-3 years. So walk through with our viewers the importance of your holiday project, Divas and Dolls.
So Divas and Dolls is something that, this is our 7th year, that started in 2013. It's a vision that God made me do, and I always say that because I was busy and I didn't want to do it, but obedience is better than sacrifice, and it has just totally changed my life and impacted the lives of so many others. And it's a collaboration of small business owners all around the world, collaborating and making sure that every little girl in the world has a doll for Christmas. And for us, it's a woman initiative. And I always say that when God gave me the vision of dolls, I was like, well, we need to do more than dolls. Like, we need to give them money. We need to do something else. But God is very specific in the things that He has us to do. And I understand now more than ever. It initially started off, just a little backstory, being at home in New Orleans under the bridge. I was a manager for Cox Communication, and we were just out there giving out toys. And that was my first time really seeing a little girl, a little 7-year-old little girl that was homeless, like living with her parents under the bridge. And I just remember her little face, and she asked me for a doll. That's all she wanted for Christmas was a doll, and we had no dolls. And I was like, give me money. Do anybody have any cash? We were told not to bring money, because we're out in the streets, And one of my coworkers said, I can give you this $20, but I can guarantee you that if you give it to her parents, she'll never get a doll. And I was just like, that bothered me so much. And so that's kind of where it started from. And I'm just so blessed to be able to work with so many amazing women. It's grown over the years. Last year, we collected over, oh my God, we stopped counting. We kind of stopped counting, but it was 1,200 dolls. We shipped over 200 dolls. I shipped dolls to Jamaica, Chicago, all over the world. And what it is it's a collaboration of women, and what they're doing, they're reaching out. Everyone will have, you'll see the flyer, and this is like you're the first person, you get the exclusive, because we hadn't even posted the flyer. We're posting it in the morning, super excited. It's very hard to make this happen, because you got all these badass boss ladies out there, and they just having a hard time sitting in their picture. But 28 women, 30, I can't remember how many women, but we have 28 states, 13 states, 28 cities of amazing entrepreneurs, women doing all types of stuff in the community, and they will be collectively picking up dolls. They'll give you their location. This is how it works. All these different women in all these different cities and states, well, when they post the flyer, they'll put their location to drop off and donate dolls, right? And we'll do that for 10 days, and throughout that period, we'll then deliver them to halfway homes, boys and girls clubs. We always go to the burn unit. We go under the bridges. We go to the train station. Baby, we be slinging dolls. We are the female Santas, okay? We sling dolls all Christmas long, and I will say we always have an overflow to where we typically are giving out dolls throughout the year. We've had people who have had, one young man, he saw us on the news in New Orleans. He had just lost his wife to cancer, hadn't been 2 months. He had 4 daughters. He said he didn't even know how he would be able to get them anything. It's things like that. And when we go out there, we don't just throw the dolls out there. We talk to the little girls. We ask them what they want to be. We show them that it doesn't matter where they are in life right now, their current situation, that they can be anything that they want to be. We share our challenges and where we came from. And I always talk about suffering from dyslexia and ADHD. I was always counted out. I was most likely not to succeed. But look at God, look at me now, and I haven't even touched the surface of where God is going to take me. But I like to tell people it doesn't matter where you came from and what disadvantages or disabilities that you have, that God loves taking nobodies and turning them into somebodies. And so when we go out there, we fellowship with those little girls, we dance with them, we Cupid shuffle with them, we motivate them, we encourage them. A lot of those little girls don't know their mother, they've been left. Their parents are on drugs, they're in prison, things of that nature. But I always challenge people. You remember things when you were 4, 5, 6. You remember who helped you, who touched you, who did this, who did that. You remember all those things. And so as women, we're challenged. We can't say we bosses. We can't say we this, and we can't say we out there doing all these things, but we don't reach back and show little girls how to become women. And that's what we are. And if that's what we stand for, and that's what we want to exemplify in the community, we need to be able to teach those under us see the reflection of what they can be. And so that's why it's so near and dear to me when we say, we want to make sure every little girl in the world has a doll for Christmas. We're willing to mail them all over the country, because we feel like and you're dude, so you're not gonna feel this per se, but it's like a man having, your dad will say you need to have a dollar in your pocket, right? Little girls, oftentimes a baby doll is a girl's best friend, and that's all they got. And when these little girls are going from home to home and place to place, that's the only thing they got that's familiar to them. So it's so many different things that's positive about this. I love the collaboration of meeting some amazing women, and we network thereafter, and it's just all around just a very positive thing. And I'm just so excited to have all the amazing women globally participating in the 2020 Divas and Dolls Worldwide.
I tell you what, awesome work. And what we're going to do is this, before we go to our commercial break, and of course we're going to bring you back to recap a
Yeah.
couple of items, please let people know the best ways to stay connected as well as support the Divas and Dolls initiative.
Again, you can follow me on all social media outlets at Fire Tyressa Ty. On my website, firetyressaty.com. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything is Fire Tyressa Ty. And of course, my website is the same. And also, you can find me on the Author's Corner.
We'll talk about it.
We're gonna talk about that. Okay. So much going on.
We
We're trying to look. Trying to condense it all. But yes, so follow me. I will follow you back. I'm here to support you as well. Anything that I can do. I love collaboration and partnership, and I just love people as a whole. So I'm just super excited to even be here.
Well, I'll tell you what, thank you so much for taking and making the time. And what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our first commercial break. And we come back, we're bringing on just an equally powerful and positive presence. So this is the Conversation Corner with your host, the author, Andrew Snorton. Doing good, but doing it greater. That's what Creative Community Solutions is all about. Make sure to add them at @SnortonCCS on Instagram, Twitter, and Creative Community Solutions on Facebook. They provide great services like the ones you see here, so connect with them today. Make sure to check me out each Wednesday at 1:06 p.m. for our midweek break, the Fast 15. It's an opportunity to pause, check up, check in, enjoy a short reading, and close out on a positive note during our now normal. So make sure to check us out each Wednesday. All three of my books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, as well as Apple for the ebook For Nothing Minor. Likewise, make sure to get a copy of the audiobook on these and other platforms, and don't forget all the bookstores that are carrying the books. And for the holidays, get your holiday pack, whether it's Deeper, 9 Stories of Faith, or Nothing Minor. Place your order by December 15th for timely delivery, and make sure to stay connected with me for these and other great pieces of information. We'll see you soon. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back for our second guest on the Conversation Corner. And I tell you what, anytime that you're around, we've heard this before, when you're around good people, you feed off of their positive vibes and positive energy. And I'll tell you what, Tori Vogt, it is a pleasure to have you back. It's been a minute.
It has.
And everything. So it is great to see you once again. Hopefully you're having, even with the now normal, hopefully you're having a good holiday season.
I am. Thank you for having me back. And it's good to be here. It's good to be alive. A lot to be thankful for. And so, going into the holidays, it's just, another opportunity to practice gratitude and to share that message of hope.
Yes, totally agreed. So for our viewers who have not had the pleasure of getting connected with you, could you let our viewers know where you're based out of and a few of your moving parts in addition to being an author?
Sure. So my home is at Metro Atlanta, Georgia. And you can find me on my website, which is boldbreakthrough.com, and that's with a U. It's BOLDBREAKTHRU. On Facebook is Tori Inspires You. And on Instagram, it's at Bold Breakthrough, BOLDBREAKTHRU.
Wow. So again, you've got your share of like a number of people moving parts. Let me ask you this, and especially as it relates to your author journey, walk through with our viewers, what would you say was the catalyst? Because all of us have that moment where you just don't decide to write. It kind of hits you. So walk through with our viewers that moment where it hits you. This was the next step that I need to take.
So I was told in high school that I could write professionally. I've always been a great writer, but I had no idea, how to make that happen. But I did incorporate it through my life. It has helped me. People would ask me to write their resumes or, the jobs that I had always involved some sort of writing, and I was able to get extra measures of success because I was a very good writer. And I in the meantime, I have poetry that I wrote in high school that, is still in pencil. I have manuscripts that I have written, and just, I was busy as a mom raising children. I had my first child at 20, and I raised my children as a single woman. And so between that and, getting a bachelor's degree and getting an MBA, I really, put those projects on the back shelf of my life, the back burner of my life. But fast forward, and several years ago, my best friend died suddenly at the age of 46, and she left 4 daughters, the youngest which was 12 years old. And it really just really hit me hard, because she had been in Atlanta earlier that year in February for the Bonner Brothers show. And we had plans when she came back to town for the next show in August. And I got the call on Father's Day, which is June, and it shook me to the core. And then got back to Atlanta, and 4 days later, I got laid off from my dream job, which I had been on for 2 years, and had accomplished a lot of my personal and professional goals. And then several days after that, I turned 50, and so my life totally changed in a matter of 2 weeks. And I think with this pandemic now that's happening worldwide, a lot of people are feeling like, God, my life has changed overnight. And so that's what I experienced back in 2018. And so things come in threes. So I'm like, God, what are you trying to tell me? You have my attention now. I'm listening. And he's like, those books that I have always told you to write, well, it's time now. And I was really scared, because a lot of the things that I have written are very personal, and it's a lot of pain and dark places that I kept to myself. And so, while I was building a life, raising my children, volunteering and serving my, alumni association, and, different civic activities, getting degrees and just shining, I really, stuffed and put away those very uncomfortable and painful things that had been even from my childhood. And so, that is one of the things that he revealed to me, is that, you're shining, but, where I most need you is to tell people how you got from, where you were as a single mother at age 20, or being, a product of the foster care system, into, a trailblazer, someone who's very successful in many different areas of her life. People seeing the polished side of you is not really helping. There are people who are suffering and need to know how to get from A to B, and that is where you come in. You can tell them, like our last guest said, it doesn't matter where you came from. You can be, do, or have anything that you want. And so sharing the process with them, or at least be an inspiring face and story, is what I need from you. And so I'm like, oh my God, what is it that I can bring to people? What can I give to people right now? And, that's really going to make a difference. Who can I really impact? And so he gave me a concept, and it was dealing with trauma. And I have managed and coped with trauma, even, childhood trauma, and a lot of different things throughout my life. Even with my father passing away at the age of 5 due to cancer, and a lot of epics. I went through, probably by the age of 28, more traumas than most people, more major life experiences than people experience in a lifetime, and still, was resilient and still rose above. And so this book on trauma, and so I got really scared, and I'm like, what if I only have 6 months to live? I kept thinking of my friend who passed away suddenly, at the age of 46, and, she was several years younger than me. What if I only have 3 months to live? Or, God, what if I only have 2 weeks to live? What is it that I can give to people? And he said, why don't you just start writing letters to your younger self? And so that's what I did. And the book is called You Got This: letters to my younger self, and I distilled that into everything that I possibly have learned and could share into 5 basic principles that can help people immediately get from a stuck state and spring into success. They can take their fear and turn it to faith, and they can transform their trauma into triumph.
Wow. And when I was listening, I'm glad that, you shared what you shared. Like, there's strength in vulnerability. And, when you talk about the things that you've had to work through and been led through, it is, on one hand, a little bit nervous because you never know how people are going to respond. But what's bigger than that is that there's somebody out there who needs to hear that and know that even with a parallel experience, there are constructive ways through it. And another theme that jumped out at me, and this is something that we said numerous times on the show, people see us where we are, but they do not know what we've been led through in order to get here. And when you detailed, your walk getting to this point, that theme just kept ringing louder and louder and louder. But bigger than that is, like you said before, and if you could walk through those principles that your book covers.
Right. So one of the things is, the themes is learning to trust yourself. I trust myself. And as Faya said, you have everything you need right now to be successful. And that's what I really want people to know. If you don't hear anything else, if you're 5 years old, if you're 7, 8, 12, 18, if you're living under a bridge, you have everything you need right now to be successful. It doesn't matter what family you have or don't have, if nobody's supporting you, if you're the ugly duckling, if you have dyslexia, if you've done bad things in your life, if you don't have a lot of money, or if you do have a lot and it seems like you've got all this responsibility and your family's dream is not your dream, just stop and take a breath and just know and have faith. You have everything you need right now to be successful. And a lot of times we second guess ourselves. And it took me till much later in life to know that I really knew my stuff. And it took other people affirming that when I wish I had known, at 18, yes, I could be a professional writer. Another thing is to forgive yourself. That was a huge, huge principle, because a lot of times we just beat ourselves up. We did the best we could with what we knew and what we had at the time, and we look back sometimes with shame. And you have to forgive yourself because, you may be embarrassed. You still may be walking around embarrassed about things that happened years ago. Nobody else is thinking about that. People have forgotten. They've moved on with their life. Like, I was the pissy girl at school. I went to school smelling like Pete as a little girl. And that was very, even talking about it now, that at the time, that was a real embarrassing and hurtful thing. And, I was 7, 8 years old. I had an alcoholic mother who would be missing for days at a time. So I did good to even get myself up and get myself to school. So, just forgive yourself. A lot of times we just stay trapped in our own stuff and our own shame when the world has moved on, and God has forgiven you. So why are you still, crucifying yourself? Another principle, and it just goes back to knowing that you have everything that you need right now to be successful. So there's, principles like that. I trust myself. I forgive myself. I nurture myself is a big one, because a lot of times, especially people who have experienced trauma in childhood or didn't have a stable home environment, we want to nest. We want to create this perfect home and family life, and we go around, we nurture everyone else, but we put ourselves last. And it's going to catch up with you sooner or later. And so why not now start living your best life and the life of your dreams, and take all of that love that you've been pouring into everyone else and turn it back to yourself. Just try it, just even for a little while. And you get over a lot of the bitterness and pain and expecting other people to give to you and to love you the way that you need it, because you are the only one who can love you perfectly next to God. And you are the only one who can nurture yourself fully and properly. And so that is another one of the very important principles, Drew, is to nurture yourself.
And you know what? In listening to that, it's almost like sometimes the barriers that are in our way are like self-imposed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes like we really do have to get out of our own way. And even when you're walking through those things, it's, you know, it's even like you know, have alluded to, just because you've been there doesn't mean you have to stay there. Mm-hmm. And movement is movement. And on top of that, it's one of those, even when you spoke on the theme of self-love, any accomplishment, because you know what you've had to work through in order to get there, you should celebrate and you should feed off of that. So even just those reminders, because sometimes we're like, oh, it's not that big a deal. But no, if it's, you know what you had to, you know the path you had to take in order to get there. And then you're using that and feeding off that positive energy to keep going. So even those themes, you know, those are things that can help anybody at any age, young, old, you know, gray or lack thereof. I mean, those are some big things. Walk through with our viewers, since you have released your book and it's been very well received, Amazon bestseller. And from that, it seems like you've been able to, even virtually, be able to speak with different audiences and connect with different audiences. When you look at your journey, now that this masterpiece, which it really is, now that this masterpiece is here and it's, you know, concrete, what feedback or what takeaways have you gotten from readers or people when you've spoken on these themes that you touch base on in your book?
Right. So at my first book signing, which we held at the Apex Museum in Atlanta, a lot of my friends and family came. There were people I went to high school with, my high school classmates from thousands of miles away. We went to high school together and ended up here in Atlanta. Some of the things that they knew, but I didn't know people saw. You know, some of the stuff that I was going through at home, even being, you know, a neglected child, they knew about. And I think they were just so happy to see me win. There are people who, you know, I got calls and texts and emails. I'm 60-something years old, and after reading your book, I was able to immediately resolve things that I have been struggling with my whole life. I thought my book was just for, you know, middle school girls, but I have had people young, old, and in between, female and male, read the book, and it has changed their life. There are people who now have become writers. They opened up that well of creativity inside of them, and I see their work and the messages that they've been able to share with other people, and it's almost scary. It's so powerful. It's humbling, and I was so glad that I was, like Faya said, obedient to God, because all I kept thinking was, if you were to pass away early and you're standing those pearly gates, how could I answer for all the people who have suffered and died and didn't accomplish their purpose because I was too selfish or ashamed or scared to write the book? And I didn't want, you know, I didn't want that on my shoulders. I didn't want to miss my opportunity to get into heaven because, you know, of my shame or pride or ego. So, you know, I have, since writing the book, I became certified as a life coach. So I do work with people one-on-one and in group settings, you know, to just meet them where they are and help them get to where they need to be. I was fortunate enough this year to actually present to my alumni association, and I got my bachelor's degree from Temple University in Philadelphia. And I was honored to be able to present a webinar a few months ago on pivoting from peril and just help people, you know, who are just struggling right now with the pandemic, and so many different situations and scenarios have come out of this. It has impacted so many people on so many different levels, and some people are thriving in it, and some people don't know that they can thrive. So we talked about ways that you can thrive. It's different, but there is joy in every moment. So there have been many opportunities that have come from this. One of the things that I am very happy about in answering the call to do this work is the book came out in end of July, August of 2019. And my baby brother, who was 45, passed away December 3rd of 2019. And it was suddenly, but he got to see me. And he was one of my number one fans in life anyway. But, as I still grieve his passing and early demise, he just was so proud of me that I had written this book. And I think that that gave him a lot of peace, especially, for the way that we grew up. It's like, you made it. You made it. At least one of us made it. So, if I don't do anything else, just answering the call and writing this book, and leaving something to help people has been fulfilling for me. But I don't quit, on this journey. I still am working on the original book, and that is 6 Lessons from a Survivor, and how to manage trauma. So I had originally planned for it to come out this year in 2020. But again, things happened, the pandemic, my brother passing almost a year ago, it was a huge process in that grief journey, and I was still managing and working a new full-time job for a software company that God blessed me with. Right after the book came out, this company came all the way from Europe and courted me for my dream job. And so, rising to the demand of that role and that responsibility, which helps to support actually a lot of the groceries that are delivered, food that we buy, clothes that we wear, all the infrastructure behind that, these large companies of the world who provide goods and services and bring them to our door, or we're able to get them now through the buttons on our phone. So it's pushed, those things have come first, those duties have come first. And it's pushed back, my timeline for putting out my next book. But I have several in the queue, and like everyone watching, we're in this together. I, just like you, get up every day and finding ways to manage in the pandemic. I took up bike riding, so I got myself a bike this year. Creative and safe ways to socially distance, but to stay healthy. And truly, I am a reader of my own book. Some days I have to go back and read my own book. So whatever I tell people, like I used to tell my kids, I'm not going to tell you anything wrong. And matter of fact, what I tell you is tried, tested, and proven. I know it works because it's worked for me over and over again. So, Drew, just continue to, every chance, every opportunity I get, interactions with people through social media, phone calls, is to, be able to uplift people and to share stories of hope, because I have been there just about situations where people are facing eviction, unemployment, you have no family to call or turn to, you have children and you're not getting any child support or in-kind support, and your car is breaking down in the middle of 285 in the middle of winter time, and you got to pick your kids up by 6 o'clock from aftercare program. I have faced many, although, people would never know it and I don't look like it, but I do have a heart for what people are going through, and even some of the most dire situations. So again, whenever, I get the chance, or someone comes up to me and, wants to have a conversation, I'm an ear to listen and a heart to care for people.
Well, I'll tell you what, and in listening to that portion, I think one of the most important things is in finding your voice, you just don't know how empowering it really is. Obviously, when you find your voice, it empowers you. But again, you don't know. It's like actually, my mom and my grandmom said, and it's true. It's like you never know who's out there paying attention to you. And the fact that you got to the point to find your voice, to go ahead and get your book done, and what you've been able to do, and the imprint that you've left and are still leaving, the seeds that you're planting. Like, people have to understand, more often than not, when you're writing, it's really not about you. It really isn't. Mm-hmm. And what you're doing is, with you finding your voice, you're helping other people amplify theirs. And that is so huge. That is extremely powerful. So before we go to our next commercial break, and after our commercial break, we'll do our group recap. Could you please let our viewers know the best ways to stay connected and support the work that you're doing?
Sure. So Instagram, it's Bold Breakthrough with a U, BoldBreakthru. Facebook is Tori Inspires You. And then through my website, you can connect to all social media platforms, and you can always also click through and buy your copies of You Got This, Letters to My Younger Self. And that is boldbreakthru.com with a U, BoldBreakthru.
Okay, so what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our last commercial break, and we come back, we're going to have both guests to kind of recap a couple things and throw maybe one or two things that we didn't get to in their individual segments. So stick around for more of the Conversation Corner.
Matters of the Mind is a self-care journey journal written by Tyressa. This journal is also a workbook and resource allowing you to sit down, relax, organize, and strategize for today and beyond. So check it out. 1820 Hats allows you to live free in a great creative way. Add them at 1820 Hats on Facebook and Instagram, and not only pick up the merch, but take a look at the message behind it. 1820 Hats. You Got This is the Amazon bestseller written by Tori Vogt. It is a great book and empowering to remind each and every one of you all that you need for success is truly inside of you. So make sure to look at You Got This. And don't forget to check out the author Andrew Snorton's The Author's Mixtape series. Who else do you know can come up with a freestyle audiobook series complete with poetry, spoken word, music, and other creative pieces? Tidal, Amazon, Spotify, or just a few of the ways you can download your copy today.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back to kind of get ready to do our closeout time on the Conversation Corner. As you see, we're fortunate to have some great people doing some great things across the board. We had Tyressa on first, touching base on a number of her projects, and you just heard from Tori Vogt. So we're using the beauty of modern technology. We're going to start with Ty, and real quick, I know there were two things that we didn't get a chance to touch base on during your individual segment. Could you please remind viewers one of the things that you were able to do in regards to being creative, in regards to your work with, well, I can't really say work, but you were actually able to, appear with Charlemagne the God. So could you walk through that with us?
Yes, shout out to Charlemagne the God and the Breakfast Club for having me this summer, and that was very, when I say that was, to me, a chance of a lifetime. I admire those guys from a media standpoint. You know, my undergrad is in mass communications, and of course my MBA is in marketing. So for me to be able to spend time with those guys were just so uplifting for me during a time when I was struggling with, what direction I was going to go in. And of course they featured my recent journal, Matters of the Mind, and it made me think about Tori when she was talking about, the best of us go through times when we're unsure and feeling a sense of depression because we're trying to figure it out on our own, and people may look at us as having it all together, but they only know, they see the glory and don't always know the story behind it. So I got a chance to talk to Charlamagne and the entire crew for about 30 minutes this summer on the Breakfast Club, and we talked about the challenges of and the pressures of being successful and attempting to reach your goal. Again, we all are born with a purpose, and I believe that people who are creative a lot of times have a sense of additional pressure, if you will, of trying to accomplish those things. And like Tori talked about, especially when you're the kid that is most likely not to succeed, or the one that was picked on, you feel an extra pressure to prove to people that you are someone and you're okay, and you're not that little girl on the playground anymore. And so we talked about those things. And again, Charlamagne, he struggles with depression as well. And things of that nature. So it was a very impactful show for me, a very big accomplishment. It meant a lot to me, but more so it was impactful for other people who needed to hear that it's okay. And especially during this time, it's okay to not be the millionaire and the billionaire that all you see when you pull up social media is being that millionaire and billionaire, to just sometimes wake up every day and be able to function and breathe and not split your wrist. And I'm just being real with it, during this period when we talk about my journal, I'm a big journal. I believe in journaling. The Bible said, write the vision and make it plain. And a lot of the things that you've seen me do, I just wrote it down and had no clue how it was going to happen, and God allowed it to happen. So journaling is so important to me. This is a time that I encourage you to take that time, and you may not open up a major business, and you may not write another book right now, and you may not produce another series or another song, but you may find yourself right now during this pandemic, and that's okay if you're not in the spotlight and you're not doing all the major things you've done or plan to do. It's about self-care, self-love. And like Tori was talking about, all those components that she shared, it ties into what my journal, Matters of the Mind, and asking yourself those little questions, the 5-year-old questions, because we are a direct reflection of who we were as a kid is what you see us as an adult. So I thank God for that opportunity with Charlamagne to talk about those very, those sometimes very testy, even now as adults, to talk about those things, but it's still healthy for us. So I thank God for that opportunity.
Awesome. Tori, you've covered so much ground. I mean, not only just getting here, but especially once you got your book done. Refresh in our viewers' minds the importance of finding your voice. We said it a little bit earlier, but even during these times where the now normal has a few things muted or operating a little bit differently, and we know the holidays at times can be a very challenging time for a number of people, please remind our viewers, and especially what it means to you, the importance in finding your voice.
So what it does not mean is getting on social media and just going on and saying anything and trolling. Sometimes finding your voice is going inside, going in your house and shutting your door, and maybe going in your closet, okay, and being very quiet. So like Ty said, the journaling is very important, meditating. Sometimes, like, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. It's about the listening, letting that inner voice, finding our inner voice. And also, as Ty said, the journaling is very important. And I think that, this pandemic is happening for a reason. Some people say it feels like jail or we're in a big timeout, but I think we all needed to kind of slow down and pause and reconnect with ourselves, our family, because we move in this world, especially in this society in America, at a very, very fast pace. And it's a good opportunity to take all of those projects, all of those ideas that have been on your heart, that you've been inspired for so long, and to move forward on them. So again, a voice is not necessarily audible, something that's, you put out into the universe, or that everybody's like Ty said about, being rich and famous. Everybody, if you go on social media, got the bag. Got the bag. Okay, everybody got a bag.
But no peace.
Right, and a lot of times they don't have the bag. They're just telling you they have it and making you think that they have it, so you can, sign up under them.
Wow. It almost sounds like I don't know if people still do this, but people would rent a nice car for the weekend, but they would take off the tags, and they're flossing a new ride. So that's not always true. Actually, the Roots did a song called that What They Do, where they broke down, here's the image, but the reality is something totally different. Going back to Ty, walk through with us one of the creative things you're able to do, and hint, it might directly and indirectly involve two people in this room.
So this is so crazy because, of course, I never think about the bag. I think about the purpose for me. And I remember walking outside of my apartment complex, and I called Drew, and I'm always bouncing everything off him. I know he's just like, here she go again with some crazy idea. And I was like, I think we should do something for the authors. I said, I think we should do something for the authors because, I'm in entertainment. I see all this stuff going on, and I love my entertainment family, but this is something this is a Tyressa Ty thing, okay? This is author Tyressa Ty. This is no, Dougie Fresh or Kelly Price or Tip Tamika. This is Ty. This is my heart, my passion as an author and speaker and motivator. And so he immediately said, he thought and said, I think that's a good idea. I was like, okay, I got his approval. And he began to immediately work on just the back end things to make sure that it was able to happen. And when we started, we were just kind of playing around with it. So we said we should get someone we know in case we stumble a lot on this thing, get somebody that will, receive us well. And we had our first two guests, and we didn't really have a plan per se. And that's something people have to understand is that, and you mentioned this, Tori, when God give you a vision, you just got to sometimes take one step, just like write it down, just show him that I'm willing, and he'll just make things happen. He'll send the right people, sometimes even strangers. And that's what happened with Drew and I. We was just talking, we were kind of going back and forth, and then of course he's such an action oriented person. He's so amazing because I'll have an idea and I'll sit on it. The Virgo in me will be indecisive, and he just started. He created a flyer, and I was like, oh shit, we finna really do this. And so we started the first one, and since then it's been so many. It's been so impactful for us, so impactful for other people. Not just the fact that, and you've been on the show as well, we don't really spend a lot of time talking about our books. We will do a little plug, but we spend time trying to allow a platform for other authors to showcase their work and let people know that we are out here, we exist, and we have something to say, and we have what we say can heal the magnitudes. It can change people's lives, and just so many different ways. I mean, I always say, in my book, Follow the Fire. This is my plug. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry because I got a little exercise. You got to dance. So many different things, but it's what you need. And so I'm gonna let Drew talk about his version of all about the authors.
Yeah, well, we're going to do this since I know we were granted a little bit of extra time, but here's what we're going to do. Real quick, all about the authors. That's the Authors Roundtable series that we do that you've seen on the ticker, and you have seen periodically on the commercials, so we will obviously continue to do that. But as it looks like we are getting ready, our bonus time is just about over, so here's what we're going to end up doing. First off, thank you to both of our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is the first time you got connected with them, please stay connected. And if you've been connected before, please amplify what they're doing. Our next live broadcast will be on December 23rd, so it's not going to be on Christmas like we thought it was going to be last year. So you want to make sure to tune in at 7 p.m. Be a friend and show how much you care. You know what to do, and go ahead and hit share. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and close out with a note from our music sponsor, the Ear Candy Experience. All of you, take good care. Be safe out here. And don't forget, early voting in Georgia, December 14th.
But if you want to do a lady a favor, hey, here's what you want to do. Hey, love me tonight, the sun. Until the next time I see you, you know what? The last $2, not gonna lose. The last $2. Not gonna lose. One dose of my best friend. You better run from the truth now, so I can hear me so bad. I said I wouldn't be ready if my man had been doing me right. I can't remember in this casino, 'cause he's been creeping out every night.
This is the author, Andrew Snorton, the host of the Conversation Corner, airing every second and fourth Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Status Network, the live TV channel. We're so excited to have the Ear Candy Experience as our official music sponsor. So make sure to check out the show and make sure to check them out. And remember, let's have a conversation.